Your girl's ready. I don't know if you can tell, but your girl is ready for fall. It's September 2nd, I think. It's hot as hell outside, but I'm ready for fall. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin, and for today's video, I am so excited to finally be sitting down with you guys and sharing my fall TBR. I have been having such a fun time putting together seasonal TBRs instead of monthly TBRs because I feel like they're just a lot more doable for me, and I have like 3 months that I give myself to read the books that I put on my TBRs. I'm really trying to prioritize reading books that are outside of my comfort zone, reading books that maybe deal with a lot more complex themes and topics. I wanted to be ambitious with my TBR, so this is quite the selection. I have 19 books, which is not as much as my summer TBR. I don't know what's going on over the summer. I thought I could read everything, but considering the fact that we are in the thick of the semester with my internship, with my part-time job, with school and everything, this is a very, very ambitious TBR, but I'm holding on, and I'm like, I have a feeling that I can get at least 50% of my TBR. For summertime, we read 32% of my TBR, so my goal for fall is to read 50% of my TBR, and I'm so excited for the books that I'm going to be talking about today that I genuinely think I can do it. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started with the books on my fall TBR. We are going to start off with the largest category, the largest genre of books that are on my fall TBR, and that is fantasy. And I actually noticed that my fantasy books that I selected kind of had like subgenres within them, so I'm going to break them off into subgenres and talk about those. So we are first going to talk about the romantasies that I have on my fall TBR. So the first book I have is Throne of the Fallen by Kerri Maniscalco. I have been itching to get my hands on this book for the longest time. I finished the Kingdom of the Wicked series, and that's kind of where we are introduced to the main character in this book, Prince of Envy, and he's one of the other princes of hell, and it's, I believe, within that same world. I don't think you need to read Kingdom of the Wicked series to read this, but I think it's one of those, if you want to be more immersed into the world and if you don't want to be spoiled for any of the things that happen in Kingdom of the Wicked, you should probably read that before you pick this one up. But I enjoyed that series. I thought it was okay. I really liked the romance and I really liked the characters, and Prince of Envy was somebody who I was just very drawn to him, and I wanted to know more about him, and I thought that he was such an interesting character. So I was very excited that he is getting his own book. With this book, one day a cryptic note arrives and Prince of Envy embarks on the journey through the underworld that's filled with deadly games and riddles, problem solving, all of that, and he's accompanied by Camilla, who I believe is a human girl, and she's kind of running away from her life right now because somebody's trying to blackmail her, and she's trying to avoid a really big scandal, so she strikes a deal, a bargain with Prince of Envy. We know how striking a deal with a Prince of Hell goes from Kingdom of the Wicked. So she strikes a deal with him, and they kind of go on this journey through the underworld trying to save, I believe, Envy's kind of kingdom and everything, and I heard it's really, really interesting. It's also going to be more of an adult romance, so a lot more mature themes, so I'm really excited for that. And I do believe it's enemies to lovers, and enemies to lovers just hits perfectly in a fantasy setting, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of riddles and stuff like that, but I'm a big fan of Envy, so I feel like I can let it slide for him and for his sake. The next book, I almost showed you. Well, I did show you guys. Well, the next book on my fall TBR is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and y'all, the hype that was surrounding this book whenever it came out, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but the hype that was surrounding this book was insane. But I'm definitely somebody who's like, sometimes I want to read the book when it's being like completely hyped up and everybody's talking about it, and there's other times when I want to wait until the hype dies down to read the book, and this is definitely one of the cases where I want to wait till the hype dies down and like no one's really talking about it right now. I really want to read this book because I was at a book club the other day, and one of the book club members was reading this book, and I was like, how is it? And she was like, it's fantastic, it's amazing, the writing, like she was only 30 pages in and she was like raving about it. And I know my sister read this book and she also really, really liked it, and I'm just like, you know what, I want a fun fantasy series, I want a fun romantasy series. All I know is that there is dragons involved and a girl has to ride a dragon, and honestly that's all I want to know going into this book, because I feel like if I know anything else it might spoil it for me. The last book that I read that dealt with dragons or had dragons in them was one of the worst books I've read in my entire life, so the bar is really low, but I'm sure this is going to be much, much better just by things that I've heard. So those were all of like my major romantasy series that I felt like fit within that genre. The next fantasy books that I have fall within the dark academia genre with magical elements involved. I have a hard time kind of conceptualizing dark academia in my head just because I feel like there's a lot of different ways people talk about it, and I'm just gonna put some pictures of the aesthetic and the vibe when I think of dark academia, like how it makes sense in my head. But from my understanding is that it revolves around academic settings, so thinking universities, boarding schools that have a mysterious element to them, and it often involves themes of intellectualism, classism, elitism, and kind of explores that darker side of ambition, obsession, and kind of the passion and pressure to succeed. That's how I've made sense of it in my head. If I'm completely wrong, please let me know. But I have three book recommendations, not book recommendations. I have three books that are on my TBR that are dark academia, and this is kind of the first time I'm diving into this genre, so I'm really excited, but I'm also really nervous because these are not going to be easy books to read by any means. The first book that I'm going to be talking about is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So this book follows Alex Stern. She's lived a pretty rough life and is given a second chance at life as she's offered a spot at Yale University, and she's tasked to kind of monitor, supervise the university's secret societies, and those secret societies have access to dark magic. That's all I really know about this one. We'll see where this story takes me. I've heard some very interesting things about this book. I've heard some of the trigger warnings that are pertinent to this book, and I'm already like, okay, I'm very curious to see where the story is going to go. I do know this is also part of a series, so if I do like the first one, definitely going to continue the series. The next book I have is Babel or Babel, I don't know if there's a correct pronunciation, by R.F. Kuang, and I am so excited to read this one. I actually have started reading this one because I'm doing a certain type of video for fall. I'm sure you can probably guess potentially what it could be, but I've already started reading this one, and so far I love it, but I'm definitely in for a ride with this one. So this book is set in an alternate version of Oxford, England in the 19th century, where a young orphan boy is brought to London by a mysterious professor and is trained for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day that he'll officially enroll in Oxford's university's prestigious Royal Institute, aka Babel or Babel. This institute holds a lot of power, magical power, through language and translation, but as Robin, who's the young boy in the story, is diving deeper into his studies, he begins to question the ethics of Babel or Babel's influence and its role in the British Empire. The story is definitely having themes of resistance, colonialism, and language, of course. It feels also like I'm reading like a historical text, so I would definitely say this is also historical fiction. So if that's something that you're interested, definitely add this to your TBR. I'm just really excited to be reading another book by R.F. Kuang. I read Yellowface last year and really liked it. I really enjoyed reading her writing style, and I'm really interested to see how she's going to explore and make commentary on some of the themes that I talked about earlier throughout the story. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Like I said, I've already started reading it. I'm like maybe 20 pages in, and so far so good. Definitely going to be more of a complex read, but I'm all here for that. The next book and the last dark academia book I have is The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake, and another author that I've read before, that I read actually this year, that I'm so excited to be diving more into her work. I read Masters of Death by Olivia Blake earlier this year. Absolutely fell in love with it. Again, obsessed with her writing, similar to R.F. Kuang's. Just, I feel like the way that she just creates characters. One thing I loved about Masters of Death was that we had an ensemble cast and every character just felt so fully developed and fully fleshed out and so much fun. And with the Atlas Six, we also have an ensemble cast. We have 6 characters. It follows 6 talented musicians who are invited to join the secret society called the Alexandrian Society, and joining the society, becoming a member of the society, will secure a life of power and prestige beyond their wildest dreams. However, 6 of them are invited, but only 5 of them will actually make it to be initiated into the society. So they have a year to kind of prove themselves worthy, and then one of them's gonna have to get the bounce. One of them's gonna have to get a out of there. I don't know how it's gonna go. There's mystery going to be involved. There's gonna be lies, betrayals, all of that. Maybe some found family vibes. I don't really know what I'm getting myself into with this one particularly, but I know it's a series. I would love to like embark on a new series, on a new adventure, and I feel like this one is just gonna give me exactly that. So those were the dark academia books and fantasy books that I have. Now we have the young adult fantasy books. I have 2 books on my TBR for those, and that first one is The Witchery by S. Isabel, and I picked this book up last year when I was book shopping, and I just saw the cover and absolutely fell in love with it. Like, it's giving me Twitches meets Halloween Town. Like, I feel like the cover of this book, I don't know, the vibes of this book is just giving this could be a Disney original movie. So this book is set in a magical school and follows a group of witches. There's 4 of them, as we can see from the cover. They look gorgeous. Like, I'm obsessed with this cover, nothing else matters. But it follows these 4 witches that kind of come together to protect their town from a deadly curse. That is all I know about this book. I'm really looking forward to it. And the next young adult book that I have, I actually don't have the physical copy because it's not out yet. It comes out October 1st, and that is none other than Air by Sabaa Tahir, and I am so excited for this book, you guys. This is probably one of my most anticipated releases for the second half of 2024. I have read the Ember and the Ashes series by Sabaa Tahir and absolutely fell in love with it. It's one of my favorite series I've ever read in my entire life. It's just so incredible. Like, that series honestly just made me so excited to read more books by this author, and I'm actually going to her book tour when she comes to Atlanta for Air, so I cannot wait to meet her, to hear her talk about this book, her writing style, and everything like that. Like, I'm going to be geeking out. Like, anyways, this book, Air, is set in the same world as An Ember in the Ashes. It's a couple of years after the ending of An Ember in the Ashes, or the last book in that series, which is A Sky Beyond the Storm, and it follows 3 new characters. One of the characters, though, if you've read the Ember in the Ashes series, you know who they are. Wink wink. So I'm really excited for this one. I don't know too much about it. I kind of want to go into it blind because I went into An Ember in the Ashes pretty blind, but I know it's going to be full of pain, love, maybe some betrayal. I don't know. I think this is also going to be set to be a duology, so only 2 books, which I can do 2 books. I don't know if I can go through more than that because Sabaa Tahir takes no prisoners. She takes no prisoners. Looking forward to great characters, rich world building, storytelling, and just, again, lots and lots and lots of pain. Which, honestly, if you follow her on Instagram, I feel like she'd be laughing at us. Like, I feel like she laughs at our pain. Like, why are you giggling? That's so funny. The last set of fantasy books that I have, oh my gosh, I have a lot of fantasy. Honestly, fall equals fantasy, so I'm just ready to be in my fantasy bag. I have not read enough fantasy this year, and this is the time to do it. So the next one that I have, these 2, they kind of fall under, I don't know the category, and like I don't know the subgenre. Like, they don't feel necessarily just like a romantasy book. They don't really fit into dark academia or young adult, so they're kind of just like, I don't know exactly where they fall under. They might be a combination of different subgenres and stuff like that, but I just know that they have some type of magical element involved. So the next one I have is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, I believe, and I have heard really, really good things about this book. I've heard really, really good things about this duology in its entirety. I know it's more of like a gothic romantic fantasy. I feel like it's going to be very atmospheric. Like, just even looking at the cover, I just feel like I'm going to be in a forest, maybe with some castles, some big buildings, a dark mist. I don't know, like, I just feel like I'm going to be very immersed into whatever this is. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for it. And then the last fantasy book on my fall TBR is One for My Enemy. I'm sorry, I'm obsessed with this woman. I'm on a mission to like read everything that she writes because I don't know what Masters of Death did to me. It altered something in my brain that like I need to read everything that this woman puts out. I know that this book is more of a modern fantasy between 2 rival families that are also powerful witches that's set in New York City. I believe it is Romeo and Juliet inspired. I don't necessarily know if it's like a retelling, but I do know it's Romeo and Juliet inspired because I believe 2 characters from both rival families fall in love. And I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. So I'm excited to see like what this is all about. I have heard too, people who've read this one, there is a lot of like emotional pain and impact that this book had on a lot of people. So I'm really excited to see if I'm going to also feel the same way. We are officially done with the fantasies. I have 8 fantasies on my fall TBR. That's insane. We are going to go ahead and get into some of the romances that are on my fall TBR. And the first one is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. And I have been seeing this book on so many people's TBR for fall. It's this book and I think it's the X-Hex that I've seen for like if you want more of like that cozy, very atmospheric fall read. People have been putting like these books on their list. I know I'm gonna need that eventually this fall, especially with some of these more heavier reads. I know I'm gonna want something that's going to give me more of that light fall cozy vibe, and I've heard that this book is very charming, it's very cute. People just feel very good when they read this book. I believe our main character is a witch, of course, who keeps her magic a secret and travels to a mysterious home that houses 3 other young witches who need to kind of be taught how to be witches. So she's over there to help them, I believe, and help them control their magic. While she's there, she meets a librarian, a guy who kind of takes care of these 3 young witches, and he's just not her biggest fan. So I'm assuming we're gonna get a little bit of enemies to lovers of some kind. I'm really looking forward to reading this fall. The next book on my fall TBR that's a romance is none other than Daydream by Hannah Grace, and I got this the other day when I was at Barnes & Noble. First of all, I think this is my favorite cover out of all 3 of the covers. This one is definitely my favorite, and I'm really excited about this book because because it's Henry's book and I've been really interested to learn more about Henry as a character since Icebreaker. This is the third book in the Maple Hill series. First book is Icebreaker, the second book is Wildfire, and here we are with Daydream. I read Wildfire earlier this year and thought it was really cute and everything, but Icebreaker is definitely my favorite. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I will say, based on how the author has been talking about this book and promoting this book, I don't think this book is going to be as smutty as Icebreaker, and I know that that's something I think she's trying to kind of not necessarily like distance herself from, but back away from. I think she wants to focus on other aspects and elements of a romance book than just the smut aspect. So I'm really looking forward to that as I go into this book. And I know that Henry is a lot of people's favorite. He's definitely somebody, like I said, who I want to know more about, and I can't wait to read his book and his story. I believe that he crashes the female main character's book club. They kind of become friends after that, and she starts to tutor him because Henry, I think, is struggling in one of his classes. So we love a good like athlete tutor type of relationship. Also, it's not a hockey romance, but Henry plays hockey. Seems like it's going to be a sweet, wholesome, cute book. The next book I have is The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. I was also at Barnes, or when I was at Barnes, I picked this book up with a Daydream because it was buy one get one 50% off, and I'm always going to be there for a sale. I've been seeing this author's books a lot on Instagram, and I've actually wanted to start getting into more of her work because I've heard a lot of really good things about it, and I know that this is part of an interconnected series. I do believe this is the first one. This book follows our main character Lily. She is a bookworm, and she has been communicating via email with a fantasy author, I believe, until one day he completely ghosts her and like stops replying, and she's like, bro, what? So she's kind of like not in a great mood after that, especially because I think that she has a lot of pressure from her family to be a certain type of way, and kind of communicating with this author has been something that has been, you know, just like a very good thing for her in her life. So for someone to just completely ghost you one day, it's like, bro. So obviously I think that she is upset about it, but fast forward, her sister is getting married and Lily's like, I'm gonna get out there, I'm gonna get my life together, I'm gonna go out there, and she is like, I need a date for this wedding. And a cute neighbor just moved in and she's like, hey, I might spark a conversation with this guy. That neighbor is none other than the author that ghosted her. She doesn't know that it's him, but he quickly realizes that it's her, and he doesn't want to make things awkward. He doesn't want to like make things complicated, so he actually agrees to set her up with somebody else, and we'll just see how the story goes from there. I don't know about y'all, but this sounds a little messy, but we love a secret identity trope. Also, the cover is so freaking cute. The last romance book of my fall TBR is Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. This book follows our female main character, Drew, who inherits her grandmother's bookstore called the Book Nook, and you would think that's like a dream, especially for us book girlies who always dream about like opening a bookstore and everything, but Drew actually hates books. She meets Jasper, who is a best-selling author, and one day he's doing his book signing and he is like determined to get her to like books and to get her and just kind of show her the world of books and how amazing they are. And he's also a hopeless romantic, so because he's, like I said, determined to show her what she's missing out, he kind of creates a list of different book activities that they can do together and kind of, I guess, show her around in exchange for her showing him around Denver, because he is writing his next book and I guess going around Denver. Maybe it's set in Denver, so she's showing him like all the local spots, showing her that reading is actually pretty cool, and she's showing him around Denver for his upcoming book. I know that when I go on Goodreads, it's a lot of mixed reviews about this book, so I'm really curious to see kind of where I'm gonna fall within it all, but I am really looking forward to reading this book. I feel like anything that's kind of set in a bookstore is just gonna be what I want to read right now. I feel like it's just gonna be very on brand for fall, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Okay guys, the next category genre of books on my fall TBR is the mystery, thriller, horror of it all. Yay! I don't like to be scared. I don't like to be spooked out. Like, I feel like there's like 2 different types of people when it comes to like fall and Halloween and stuff. Like, there's the people who watch Halloween Town, Twitches and stuff like that, and then the people who watch like Michael Myers, the creepiest of like the scariest movies. I'm definitely Twitches, Halloween Town type of girl, but I want to branch out of my comfort zone. I want to try new things. I want to really push myself as a reader and read things that might have really good writing, but they might scare me at the same time. And I don't know, I just want to try something out. We're gonna start off with a heavy hitter that has been on my TBR before, and that's White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. Honestly, I do not know anything about this book other than a girl moves into a new house with her family because I believe her mom gets remarried. So she moves into the house with her family, her new family, I guess, and she starts noticing that things are really weird. Like, there's ghosts, things are falling off the wall. Her new sister, I think, is also weird. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of weird things happening in this house of hers. Only thing that I can think about when I think of this book is frightening. Like, I actually think I'm going to be terrified for my life when I read this book, but I'm looking forward to it because Tiffany D. Jackson is an author that I do want to read about, and I do want to read more of her work because I've heard she's just an incredible storyteller. So regardless of how scared I am going into this book, I am looking forward to it. So I'm pretty sure very certain it's going to be an emotional roller coaster, but we will make it through. At least I hope we will. The next book actually is fun, or more fun, and it is Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the second book following The Naturals. The Naturals follows a group of teenagers who are enlisted by the FBI to form this group because they have very unique and special abilities that help the FBI kind of solve these cold cases, these murders, just like the teenage version of Criminal Minds, Law and Order, that type of stuff. I am definitely looking forward to reading this because I know that something that I didn't love about The Naturals was I felt like we didn't get to know a lot about the other characters and their background. I felt like it was a lot more plot heavy. I'm hoping that in the second book we'll learn a little bit more about characters, and I do think that one of the characters, it kind of follows his storyline and we learn a lot more about his background and his past, and that's a bit more developed and brought to the forefront in this book. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think when I'm in the middle of, you know, the fall and I'm just like, I need something that's, I know is going to be fast paced, I know I'm going to be able to kind of be engaged the entire time, this is going to be one that I'm going to be picking up. So definitely looking forward to reading Killer Instinct this fall. There's a lot of purple. Like Daydream, The Neighbor Favor, White Smoke, Killer Instinct, Throne of the Fallen. Oh my gosh. And we have another purple book. And that is The Push by Ashley Audrain. Yeah, I think that's how you say her last name. I think I'm equally terrified to read this book as I am to read White Smoke, because this one is more of a psychological thriller, and I feel like psychological thrillers are a lot more sinister in how they get you because it's very subtle and it's very slow building. Like, it's not relying on like jump scares, it's more so suspenseful and slow. Like, someone's like whispering in your ear, you know, you're getting a little tickle on your arms, like you start questioning everything. That's what this book is giving. So this book follows a mother who is struggling with her role as a mom. She recently, I believe, gives birth to her daughter. However, she's having a hard time connecting to her daughter, and she starts noticing that her daughter is doing and acting in a way that's a bit bizarre and weird, but she also doesn't know if it's all in her head or if this is actually what's going on. Already, I'm like, okay, we're dealing with motherhood. We're probably going to be dealing with postpartum, maybe depression, I don't know. But she thinks her daughter is disturbed in some way. It could all be in her head. Who knows? But I'm looking forward to it. Yay, spooky season. And last but certainly not least, I have 3 literary fiction / general fiction that I have on my fall TBR. Again, this is definitely a genre that I don't read a lot in, but whenever I do read a book that's more literary or just more general fiction, I'm always just impressed and amazed, and I just tell myself that I want to read more. The first one is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is going to be the first Toni Morrison book that I've ever read. I know. Very long overdue, but I also want to get into classics, and I feel like she's the one that I want to start with. This is also her debut novel. This book is set in autumn of 1941 and tells the story of a young black 11-year-old girl who prays for her eyes to be blue so that she can be as beautiful as the blonde-haired white young girls that she's surrounded by in America. No doubt that's going to be a hard read, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I feel like it's going to be one that is going to impact me in a lot of ways. I've been wanting to read books by Toni Morrison, and like I said, I think this is going to be a really good one to start with, so I'm looking forward to this one for sure. The next book I have is Open Water by Caleb Nelson. I have been itching to read this book. Like, I've added this book kind of on my TBR before and never got to it, and I've just kept looking at it on my shelf. I think sometimes I get nervous reading literary fiction because the prose and the storytelling, it can be really beautiful but can also be very metaphorical, or can sometimes be very difficult and complex to get through. But that's also like why I want to read more of it, because I want to read more of those complex stories. So this book centers around a young man and a young woman who met at a pub in southeast London, and they form a very deep connection with each other while navigating their own personal struggles and their cultural identities. I know this book is probably going to hurt me as well. I know it's going to make me cry. I already have a feeling it's going to make me cry. Everyone who talks about this book has tears in their eyes, and it does not take a lot to make me cry. But it has been noted for its poetic prose and introspective examination of the emotional and social landscapes that shape these characters' lives. It's also this author's debut novel, so another debut. I love reading debut novels because it's like this is the first baby put out in the world, so I'm really excited to read this one as well. And then last but not least, the final book on my fall TBR and the last literary fiction book that I've added to my list is Bunny and Shaft. The way people talk about this book honestly is the #1 reason that I want to read it. Like, people talk about this book being really good but also weird and bizarre and chaotic, and it feels like they were like in a fever dream when they read this book. Like, this book doesn't even seem real, and I don't know about you guys, but those are all reasons why I want to read this book. So this book follows our main character, Samantha. She is a grad student in a creative writing program, I believe at a prestigious universities, and she joins this friend group called the Bunnies, who just seem like insufferable girls, and she just kind of gets entangled with their bizarre messiness that they go through. I don't really know. I'm looking forward to reading this. If you've read this book, let me know your thoughts on it. I don't know what to expect, but I'm sad. I'm totally sad. And also the cover is also just like, what's going on here? So this is my fall TBR. We have Throne of the Fallen, Fourth Wing, Ninth House, Babel or Babel, The Atlas Six, The Witchery, One Dark Window, One for My Enemy, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, Daydream, The Neighbor Favor, Better Than Fiction, White Smoke, Killer Instinct, The Push, The Bluest Eye, Open Water, and Bunny. 19 books in total. I am sure I'm going to read books outside of my fall TBR, but like I said, I want to read 50%, so at least half of my fall TBR. I read 32% of my summer TBR, so I want to do a little bit better with that, but I do think that I took more time selecting these books than I did my summer TBR, so they're more personal to me, and like I said, I've already started reading Babel or Babel. We're making progress. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am so excited for fall. I cannot wait. I don't know, something about this time of year just puts me in the best mood, and I know that it's going to be crazy with everything going on in my life and trying to make time to read and balance everything, but I think that just having books that I'm looking forward to reading, and I have some really fun reading vlogs that are going to be in the works and then I'm going to be filming for you guys the next couple of months. I just feel, I don't know, I feel very excited for it. So let me know what books are on your fall TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these books and your thoughts on them, and I will see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye!